Hi everyone, my name is Elvis Abenga. I'm here to have a very interesting conversation on surrogacy as is applicable under Kenyan law. This is a conversation that's building up over time as surrogacy is more and more being accepted as a method of getting children or of reproduction for parents who are otherwise not able to use the normal or the traditional way of reproduction, and that is especially for women who are not able to carry a pregnancy to term and are still interested and willing to get a child or children. So surrogacy is a new concept that's new in Kenya. It's practiced in different parts of the world, but for purposes of this conversation, we are just going to talk about surrogacy in Kenya as is practiced under Kenyan law. I hope that through this conversation we will be able to learn and share this knowledge out widely. I want to just remind you to click subscribe and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be able to be getting such presentations as they come. So without wasting any more time, we want to define what surrogacy is. Surrogacy is defined as the practice by which a woman who is known as the surrogate mother becomes pregnant and gives birth to a baby in order to give the baby to someone who is unable to bear a child. So this is the definition by Merriam-Webster. It's the practice by which, and I think this is one of the most basic definitions of surrogacy, but it has various loopholes. I would tell you the truth, because when you see it saying that it's a practice by which a woman who's a surrogate mother becomes pregnant and then gives birth to a baby to give that baby to someone who is unable to bear a child, it has some gray areas which can overlap with an adoption process, because also in an adoption process a woman would give birth and give the baby over through an adoption process to someone who's unable to bear a child. So this usually needs to be fine-tuned a little bit more, and we shall look at the different types of surrogacies as exists in Kenya, not just in Kenya but in the world. We have 6 different types of surrogacies classification. We have traditional surrogacy, we have gestational surrogacy, we have commercial surrogacy, we have altruistic surrogacy, agency surrogacy, and independent surrogacy. So the first two, traditional surrogacy and gestational surrogacy, deal with the relationship, the biological relationship between the surrogate mother and the child, while commercial and altruistic surrogacy deal with the intention and the motive of the surrogate mother for purposes of entering into a surrogacy agreement, while agency surrogacy and independent surrogacy is whether the surrogate arrangement is done through an agency that facilitates it or through independent arrangement. So let's talk about traditional surrogacy. In traditional surrogacy, the surrogate mother uses her own eggs to bear a child. So the surrogate mother is the biological mother of the child. So this surrogate mother will be the biological mother of the child, and she would either be inseminated artificially or through natural means, so that she would then be able to get a child. So the surrogate mother is biologically and genetically connected to the mother. That is what a traditional surrogacy arrangement would be. But then we have another type of surrogacy which is now being made very popular because of advances in science and technology. This is called gestational surrogacy. For gestational surrogacy, the surrogate mother does not have any genetic link with the child. Eggs are extracted from the intended mother, fertilized through IVF, that is in vitro fertilization, and then implanted in the surrogate mother's womb. So the surrogate mother just plays the role of carrying the child, carrying the fetus until the child is actually born, and then the child is handed over to the intended or the commissioning parents for that purpose. What is commercial surrogacy? In commercial surrogacy, the surrogate mother is often compensated for services beyond reimbursement of medical expenses. It is a very controversial and highly illegal in a lot of countries such as the United Kingdom because of ethical reasons. So in commercial surrogacy, the surrogate mother does what she's doing for business. She gets paid, she moves on, carries a child for another person, and so on and so forth. This is the opposite of altruistic surrogacy, which is the opposite of commercial surrogacy. And in altruistic surrogacy, the surrogate mother does not get compensated above the payment of all medical expenses in the surrogacy. And this often happens only within family members. For purposes of our conversation today, we are going to focus mostly on gestational surrogacy as opposed to traditional surrogacy, because in traditional surrogacy, Kenyan law just deems that the surrogate mother is the biological mother, and if anyone else would want to acquire parental responsibility, they would need to do an adoption process for that purpose. So the first step in any surrogacy is through a properly drafted surrogacy agreement. So all surrogacy arrangements often have to start with the signing of an agreement, and a surrogacy agreement is an agreement between a surrogate or host mother and the intended parents or commissioning parents, depending on what terminology you're using, with the effect that the surrogate or host shall carry the child and deliver the child to the intended parents upon birth of the child. So for it to be a valid agreement, it has to capture these issues. First, it must be between a surrogate and an intended parent or commissioning parent. The effect of the agreement should be that the surrogate or host will carry the child and deliver the child to the intended parent upon birth of the child. What are the important clauses in the agreement that need to be there? One important clause is consent of all the parties to the agreement. So here we are saying we have consent of the surrogate mother, we have consent of the parents who are commissioning the surrogacy, we have consent of a legal guardian for purposes of surrogacy, and we'll talk about who a legal guardian is. I might as well just say it right now. A legal guardian is someone who will be able to step in the event the commissioning parents pass away before the delivery of the child. So if the parents who've commissioned get into a surrogacy agreement, a surrogate mother carries the child and then delivers the child, and the parents are out of commission for whatever reason, the legal guardian takes up parental responsibility over the child until otherwise determined. And of course, spousal consent, where the commissioning parent is married. So the agreement will have clauses such as the name and identity of the legal guardian, the requirements for medical evaluation for the surrogate mother. So the surrogate mother must be medically fit. The surrogate must also consent that she will relinquish all parental rights by the surrogate, as well as cooperate in the judicial processes that may arise after the surrogacy, and also clauses to the effect that all expenses in the surrogacy shall be catered for by the commissioning parent. As I said earlier on, depending on whether it's an altruistic or commercial surrogacy, it's always advisable, if there is any clause relating to compensation of the surrogate mother, that it be put in as a separate contract, a separate agreement outside the surrogacy agreement, because different jurisdictions, depending on the laws there, they frown upon commercial surrogacy arrangements. So under Kenyan law, Section 73 of the Children's Act grants the Children's Court jurisdiction to hear and determine matters that relate to parental responsibility. That is under Part 3 of the Children's Act. So once the child is born, the commissioning parents would then need to run to court between when the child is 6 weeks old and when the child, between 6 weeks and 6 months, run to court very quickly seeking for the following. They do an application seeking for 1, a children's officer's report to be issued. This is usually in good practice, because the Children's Act requires for the children officer to usually make any report just to ascertain the court that everything is being done in the best interest of the child. There would also be a need to ask the court for an order for paternity testing or DNA testing, which will show that the commissioning parents and the child have a biological and genetic link as their child. And then an order directing the registrar of birth to issue birth certificates. Also, order saying that legal and actual custody and parental rights would be to the applicants in the matter, and the costs would also be in the course. So these are the things that would be asked. So you'd file an application at the Children's Court, and once the court confirms paternity, and not just paternity testing, but there's a genetic link between both the father and the mother to the child, the court will then direct the issuance of birth certificates by the registrar of birth, and then legal and actual custody will be on the commissioning parents. And once that is done, the surrogacy arrangement is deemed to be over. That is a short presentation on the law on surrogacy in Kenya. We still do not have statutes or legislation that has codified this, but we are hoping that we have the assisted reproductive bill that is being debated in Parliament, and the children's bill that will hopefully recognize officially through statute the place of surrogacy in Kenya. Should you want to know more, please feel free to reach out to us at our BEGI'S law offices and chambers, and we will be able to guide you through any surrogacy that you may want to attend. Thank you very much, and God bless you.